The Bangladesh Supreme Court today scrapped most of the quotas on government jobs that have sparked student-led protests in which at least 114 people have been killed in the South Asian country. The Supreme Court in its verdict ordered 93% of the government jobs to be allocated on a merit-based system, leaving the remaining 7% for the relatives of veterans who fought in Bangladesh's War of Independence in 1971 and other categories. Earlier, the system reserved 30% of such jobs for the relatives of the war veterans. The courts, their division dismissed a lower court order that had reinstated the quotas, directing that 93% of government jobs will be open to candidates on merit without quotas. This is what the reports said. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government had scrapped the quota system in 2018, but the lower court reinstated it last month, sparking the protests and ensuring government crackdown. It was not immediately clear as to how the protesters would react to the decision. The government had extended a curfew as authorities braced for the Supreme Court hearing on the job quotas. Soldiers were on patrol on the streets of capital Dhaka, the center of the demonstrations that in fact spread into clashes between protesters and security forces. Internet and text message services in Bangladesh have been suspended since Thursday, cutting the nation off as police cracked down on protesters who defied a ban on public gatherings. Meanwhile, amidst the ongoing turmoil in Bangladesh, the Indian High Commission in Dhaka is working to facilitate the safe passage of Indian students to the India-Bangladesh border crossing points. In collaboration with various authorities, including the Ministry of External Affairs, Civil Aviation, Immigration, Land Ports and the Border Security Force, a seamless travel experience is being ensured for Indian nationals. Bangladesh is in chaos as students are protesting against a controversial quota system for government jobs. This has turned violent. Clashes between protesters, security forces and pro-government activists have led to a nationwide shutdown, university closures and a government-imposed curfew. The riot police have fired on protesters, resulting in at least 115 deaths. The army has been deployed to restore order, posing a significant challenge to Prime Minister Hasina's government. The quota system reserves 30% of government jobs for families of war veterans, which protesters deemed discriminatory. They demand in fact a merit-based system, leading to intensified protests and a volatile environment.
ভোগান্তি তো এদিক দিয়ে রাস্তাঘাটে পুলিশে ভোগাইতে সেনাবাহিনী ভোগান্তি আছে হোটেলে ভোগান্তি আছে মনে করেন ৫-১০ হাজার টাকা নিয়ে আইছি এখন মনে হয় তো ২৫,০০০ টাকা নাই ৩ দিনে বুঝছেন নি আর বাকি আর ২ দিন থাকলে মনে করেন হাফ প্যান্ট খুললে আনতে বেচা দাম লাগবে ঢাকা শহর তাহলে আমরা এই হয়রানি করতেছে।
Let's go across to my colleague Kabir Naqvi, who joins us live from the newsroom. Kabir, Bangladesh Supreme Court has asked protesting students to return to their classes following its decision to scrap most of the quotas on government jobs. Now, this is a very crucial moment in Bangladesh's history. You know, this verdict comes after days of violent protests that have led to over 100 deaths and more than 2,500 injuries. What is the latest that you can share with all our viewers? We'll go back to my colleague Kabir Naqvi. There seems to be an issue, in fact, network issue. Therefore, all of those who have just joined us, the latest in the job quota stir in Bangladesh. That's what we are currently tracking. For all our viewers, the Bangladesh Supreme Court has today scrapped most of the quotas on government jobs that have sparked student-led protests in which at least 114 people have been killed, mostly students, here in the South Asian country. Let's go back to my colleague Kabir Naqvi, who joins us back from the newsroom. Kabir, I was asking you what is the latest that you can really share with us on this particular development that we are tracking from Bangladesh?
Right. Hi, Neha. Sorry for that little technical glitch over there. I was saying that you've, made those pertinent points as to what all is happening. A 93%, reservation is going to be on the merit basis. This was earlier 30%. So take a look at that. 23% fall straight up. That's been slashed down. And the Supreme Court has said that the earlier, hearing and the verdict, the observation order that was coming out of the High Court, the lower court, that stands illegal and is not going to be sustained. Now, it's important to note here that you've come down from 30% to straight away 7%. That is going to be a welcome step that all the students that are protesting on the road are going to welcome now. But it is an emotional situation in Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina or the government asking them to go back to classes or their colleges is not going to, do the job at this point in time. We've already seen more than 100 people that have died in these violent clashes. Till date, till today, the curfew is in place. There is no report as such that the curfew has been lifted. The nationwide curfew still persists. The communication, that's been cut. That also is maintained. That is also going to continue. There are shoot at sight orders in place. None of that has been taken back at this point in time. So one has to really wait and find out as to what happens on the ground in terms of local authorities and the diktat that they're going to be throwing towards the security forces, because the army, the local police, they're still on the streets of Dhaka, and so are the students. I mean, they're riled up. That's how what a revolution does to you. It's gradual, but once it reaches its peak, its crescendo, it's difficult for it to quickly come down as well. And that's what Bangladesh is going to be facing at this point in time. Now, there are pressures from various sides. We've been talking about how Khaleda Zia is on the side, flanks, waiting to come in, jump in at the right moment. China is, looking at whatever's happening in Bangladesh very closely, monitoring all situations. The kind of money that China has put in the universities in Bangladesh, many have also questioned whether there was a Chinese hand in all of these protests. And Sheikh Hasina, a pro-India Prime Minister of Bangladesh, facing these kind of problems doesn't really bear well for us back at home in India as well. Take a look at our own neighbors. You've got Mohammad Moizu, pro-China in Maldives, the Taliban in Afghanistan, Nepal with the recent change of guard, KP Oli coming back, Prachanda going out. These are all instances that India has to very carefully tackle and look at. We don't want to be alone in this subcontinent, and we are the power and the voice of the global south, and that's been established under the Prime Minister's certain this time rule. Now, all of these factors at play, it seems like the pressure was put. The Supreme Court made that hearing. For that hearing, the curfew was extended, and out of that hearing, a welcome step, at least that's what we're picking up from all the people that we're talking about right now, is that from the 30% reservation, it has now been struck down to just 7%, 93% merit-based, reservation for the government jobs, the jobs in the public sectors. But that Razakar rhetoric that has made its way into the, political spectrum and, the war of words, that is something that hasn't gone down well as well. You've got Razakars in various administrative places in Bangladesh as well. And, there's a lot of history to it as well. Historical anti-dissents from 1971, they're still at play. And I've mentioned all those factors. But all in all, it was a pressurized moment. The Supreme Court of Bangladesh has come out. It has scrapped, most of the job quotas. I wouldn't want to use the word scaled back, because it has actually scrapped most of those quotas, only 7% reservation for the war veterans, because they think that the war veterans also played their part in the freedom struggle of Bangladesh. They should also be, that particular reservation should also be maintained. But from 30% coming straight down to 7%, 23% scrap of those quotas, it's certainly a welcome step. It is unclear how the students are reacting at this point in time, but from what I picked up and from what social media is telling us, there's an internet cut down and a crackdown on connectivity in Bangladesh. So another couple of hours and we'll get a better picture. But at the moment, Bangladesh's top court scrapping most of those quotas from 30% right down to 7%. How will this impact the protests on the ground? Will the violence go down? Will the anarchy come down? Will the vandalism, the arson go down? Those are some questions that we still have to look at.
Thank you very much, Kabir, for joining us with all of those important insights.